The Blackburn Beverley, the last of its kind. A true titan of the skies, now resting at Solway Aviation Museum, where a passionate team is bringing this legendary aircraft back to life, from its rediscovery in Hull to its dramatic transport to Carlisle. We sit down with Managing Director Dougie Kerr to hear the full story and share never-seen-before footage of what's happening today to preserve this iconic aircraft for future generations. So I'm over at the Solway Aviation Museum with Dougie Kerr, and we're sat on the wing of a Blackburn Beverley. Dougie, how on earth did you end up with all of this?
Long story. Let's try and shorten it down a little bit. What happened then? It was in a sale at Fort Paul. Fort Paul is near Hull. That's a Tudor, big fort on the side of the Humber, and it was within this fort. It's already been in the Beverley Museum and in Beverley in the Army Museum there, but it had been transported some years ago into Fort Paul. So after us talking to the guy that originally bought it through the sale, we managed to buy it from him and then decide how we're going to move it, because we didn't have any money in the bank. So we thought, well, let's try and get some money together. We went down to have a look at it. It was getting dark. The guy that went with us, he was 6'6", and he was standing beside it, and it even dwarfed him. It was, it's a big bit of metal. but it had to be saved. If we hadn't saved it, nobody else in the country was wanting to put their neck on the line, as it were.
Because what would have happened if you guys hadn't saved it?
Well, it would have been Coke cans now.
Yeah, scrapped.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So I decided, right, okay, we'll have a go at this. The rest of the directorship of the Solway Aviation Museum weren't happy with what I was doing, because they thought, we've got no money. What are you doing getting the biggest plane in the world? Well, not the biggest plane in the world, but the biggest plane that the RAF ever had, and bringing it to Solway Aviation Museum, this little museum at the, north of England. Yeah. I said, well, it's got to be saved. Hey, let's have a go at doing it. That was it. I thought, let's have a go at it. So we went down, seen the bloke, we gave him a bit of money. It became ours. He signed it over to us. And that was it. I thought, right, how are we going to do this? So we started a Just Giving page, and we started that on the 1st of February.
Because was the aircraft in bbits, or was it complete?
Well, no, it was semi-dissembled, as you would say, because he had tried to move it before, and he was going to take it to his airfield. And the outer wings, the engines were off, and the tailplane was off. So that's how we seen it. We seen it with the whole of the body, the wheels and the wings, and all, the centre part of the wings are on. The centre part of the wings is these, what we're sitting on. There's two of these here. These are some, I think that's like 60 odd foot long.
Okay.
And they were 25 foot long at one time.
Each?
Each one of them.
Oh.
25 foot wide, but we had to get them down to as narrow as we could. So we had to take the flaps off, which got us down to 19 foot.
So I guess the flaps would have been here, and those are the linkages to the flaps behind you, are they?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had to do things like that, disassemble it, once we got all the component parts apart. Anyway, we had prices from Allalese, which was, £51,000, and that's what we based our, price at. We were going to go for £60,000. So the Just Giving page was for £60,000. That would give us enough money to take it apart, and maybe feed the lads when we're down there, buy them fish and chips, right? So,
because you guys were going all the way over to Hull too.
We went over to Hull, yeah, but we were staying down there. I took my, the family caravan down, and the other guy that was with us, he took his motorhome.
Crikey. How long were you down there for?
We were down there for 3 months. We started off on the 7th of May, after the bank holiday. We went down on the Tuesday. We set up camp. The first thing we had to do when we set up camp, they had a broken toilet, like a toilet block down there. So we replumbed it and all that. We found toilet paper and, hand washing stuff, which was lying around the old fort. Because we went in every shed that was there, and we
so it's in an old fort?
Oh, this old fort, where the aircraft was.
Right.
In the centre of this fort. Anyway, so then we started looking how we're going to move it. This £51,000 was a bit daunting, so I thought, well, let's ask local people if they can help us. So there was a guy that came along with a truck. He gave us that for a day for free. He says, and you can put on as much as you can, and we'll transport it back to Carlisle. He loaned us a forklift for 3 weeks, but then he had to have it back. But the guy that came and picked it up, a guy called Paul from Plant Move Hull, he says, what are you doing? I said, well, we're taking this aeroplane apart. He said, well, what are you going to do without a forklift? I said, well, that's the problem here. We're going to have to look for one. He says, well, I buy and sell them. He says, I'll loan you one. He says, and if I sell it, he says, I'll have to come and get it, but I'll bring you another one. So that happened for the whole 3 months. We were getting different forklifts all the time. Yeah. And we got them for free, which was good. We asked local building companies if they could help us with big bags of sand, because we had to have sandbags to prop it up when we were taking it apart. All the big companies couldn't help us, but there was a little wee one down the road. They said they could help us. Travis Perkins said they would help us for £580, and I thought, well, that's a bit much for a bag of sand.
Yeah.
So this little building company down the road, I said, we're after 5 dumpy bags of sand and 50 sandbags. How much could you do them for? He said, I'll phone you back in the morning. So he phoned me back in the morning. He says, 100 quid, all right? I says,
Brilliant.
can you deliver them for us? No problem. So they turned up as well. So we got them cheap. Sandbags cheap. Got to look for a crane. The original idea was to get 2 cranes, one to disassemble it within the fort, and then one to lift it over the 17-foot wide, 17-foot high, 20-foot wide wall.
20 foot wide.
Wall.
That's crazy.
So we had to employ a 100-ton crane to lift it over the top of this thing. So when this crane company came from Hull, because we were going to use the people from Cockermouth, Lawson's, but they didn't want to drive a crane all the way to Hull.
Yeah.
So we got somebody local there, and they said they would do it. And they'd done a really good price for us. They said, well, instead of having 2 cranes, why don't we just use the one? We'll place the crane in between where the aircraft is and the wall. He says, as we take it apart, we'll lift it straight over the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
So that saved money. So 3 months we stayed down there. We, drilled all the rivets out where all the bolts were covered. We undone the bolts. A couple of them were a bit, didn't want to come out. So, big hammers and things like that, and a saw, they soon came out. We lifted it all over the wall. I phoned the company up from Cockermouth, Lawson's, with the wagons. I says, right, we've got it all over the wall. When can you start coming? He says, right, we'll have a wagon there at 10:30 tonight.
Brilliant.
So it wasn't it wasn't like a 9 to 5 job. Some of the wagons were coming like 10:30 at night. We were loading them, and then they would stay the night at the fort, and then they would go in the morning. And then some were turning up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We would load them, and they would. Well, if we didn't get them loaded before 7:30, they couldn't go until 9:30 because the embargoes on the roads, for widths and things like this.
How many wagons did you have to get in the end?
In a total, we had 14 articulated lorries.
Blimey, 14.
To truly understand what this project means to Solway Aviation Museum, you need to know that they are undertaking the monumental task of reassembling one of the most iconic aircraft of the Cold War era. The Blackburn Beverley was a massive British military transport aircraft that first took to the skies in 1950. Built for the Royal Air Force, it was designed to carry heavy cargo and troops to some of the world's most rugged and remote airstrips. Join us as we continue this incredible journey exploring the story behind the last surviving Blackburn Beverley and when you can see this legendary aircraft in person for yourself.
So, Dougie, these propellers are absolutely massive. They're bigger than me. So what can you tell us about them?
The 14-foot across, which proves difficult to move to start with because you can only go to 9 foot, legally. And then if you go any wider, you've got to start putting them on, suspend them and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, we got around that by turning them, like, not across the way, but turning them the other way, and it brought them down a bit, so we could manage to get them moving on the road. They're off the Beverley. There's these were revolutionary, because this was the aircraft, the first aircraft that could go not in the air backwards but on the ground backwards.
Oh,
because it could move the propeller and it could push it back.
Got yeah.
So this was the first aircraft to do that as well. And there's 4 of these things. They're going to be, so you can imagine the power in the thing.
So massive props. I can't get over just how. I mean, I've never seen the cross section of a wing this big before. I mean, look at it comes up to my hip.
It does.
I've noticed though on the leading edge though here on the root, it's a little bit damaged. I'm going to climb over this, Reece, so you can get a shot on the phone, and also the leading edge down there. How did it get damaged?
That was the storm that we had back end of February. The wind decided to lift these up and throw them at the fuselage of the Beverley itself, and it was throwing them around as if they were little bits of polystyrene. Well, there's some 3/4 of a ton each.
3/4 of a ton.
And they were actually tied down here, but they bust all the rope that was tying them down, and it did a lot of damage. Damage that we can repair metal, but the things like the wingtip lights and things like that, they're broken here, and you will never replace them because there's no more. But we maybe could get some blown, some perspex done.
I just think it's incredible that a bit of wind. I mean, obviously it's a wing. A wing flies because you put air over over it. But a storm.
Yeah.
I saw the video you showed me. It literally lifted
Well,
3/4 of a ton and just went.
Well, it was something like 90 mile an hour. You know.
Oh right.
You know
okay.
the way the aircraft wing works. It isn't the wind underneath it. It's the wind going over the top that sucks it up, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it was the way it went.
That's
It's
crazy.
done a bit of damage to the front of the fuselage. The fuselage is over there.
So we're at the nose section of the Blackburn Beverley. However, this is the same aircraft, but that's silver and white, and that's brown. Why is it painted a different colour?
That's the colour it came. It came with camouflage, but our aircraft was never in service with the RAF going abroad to like North African places. It was always employed by RAE, which is the Royal Establishment of Aircraft, where it was a test aircraft. And it was always silver on the bottom and white on the top. So we're going to go back to that era. We're going to put it back to its original state. And a lot of people, are really pleased with that.
Yeah.
Because, they've never seen a Beverley look in that colour.
Yeah. Thing is, though, how do you get the paint stripped off? Are you going to use acid or is it going to get rubbed off?
We started with this one. We thought we'll get it sandblasted. So we employed a sandblaster for 2 days and it was costing us £750 a day.
Ooh,
so we thought, well, we can't afford it to do that.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is, we got this done. This will look good. And all we're going to do with that, we're going to rub it down.
Yeah.
We've got a special coatings company up in Glasgow. They've been down to look at it and they've given us some abrasive, wheels and things like that. And they said, try this. And they keep saying, try this. And then we say, well, that one's better than this one. That's what they're going to supply us with. So we'll have to rub it down there and we're going to paint. Well, it's going to be spray painted.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of paint.
Well, yeah.
I just can't get over the sheer size of it. I'm just going to walk over to it and stand next to the tyre. It's huge. I was saying to Dougie, I've been on a 747 before, but probably not this close. Look, I mean,
we even had to take the front wheel off to move it.
Oh,
to get it low enough on the wagon there. So that was a bit of a, a bit of a task getting that off because it had never been off for 20 years.
There. But the fact is, you've got to get this massive, huge lump of metal onto that massive, huge lump of metal. You're gonna have to have a big crane.
Well, yeah.
For that. I mean, how much do you reckon that all weighs on it?
2.5 ton that way.
What?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
What I did when we first went down there was the guy that put it into the fort. He was the son of the owner of the fort, and he's a farmer. And they employed him because he had a tractor and a trailer, and he was taking a lot of small parts.
Yeah.
And I kept asking him, "What kind of weight's that? What kind of weight?" Well, he got it all totally wrong. He told me that this was 6 ton.
Oh, right.
Well, when we lifted it with the crane, we found it was 2.5 ton.
Yeah. So when they're pulling it on, is there a thing that actually says how heavy it is as you go?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I got weights for everything, so we know what everything weighs now.
Yeah.
Which is a lot handier for telling the crane driver here, this
so
weighs 10 ton or whatever. Those two sections of the wing that we were sitting on earlier, when they're put back together, they weigh 10 ton.
That's crazy. And so what section of the aircraft is this? Is this the tail?
This is the clamshell doors at the back.
Oh, this is one door.
This is one door. The other door's round in front of the cockpit over there.
The size of it.
There are doors in this bit.
Ah, yeah.
And what it was, when these were on, they could fill the bottom end of the thing with paratroopers. They could open that door and they could send them out that way.
Yeah.
And on the back of the aircraft were these bits of metal. And people keep telling me, why aren't we throwing these pieces of metal away? I said, well, we don't want to do that because these are called elephant's ears. And what it is, they go on the back of the aircraft because this was a trials aircraft. And when they were jumping out, they go out with strops on.
Right.
That automatically pulls the parachute out.
Yeah.
Well, these strops were banging on the side of the aircraft and putting dents and holes in them. So they put these elephant ears out, into the airstream.
Yeah.
And these straps are catching on there. They wouldn't come anywhere near the aircraft. So these have got to go back on again. I know they're all smashed to bits now. We won't be able to bend them the same way, but all the bits are here. We can repair them.
If it's original, look, you can even see the door handle there. So that'd have been.
Yeah.
I just can't get over the sheer size of it. It's incredible. How many of these do you reckon they built?
There was 49.
49, and they were all in Brough over near Huddersfield Bay.
There was two. Hull, yeah. There was two like demonstrators to start with, but they only had double wheels on, not 4 wheels on the undercarriage.
Right.
And they were called the Universal.
Okay.
And they showed them the RAF. The RAF said, "Yeah, all right, yeah, but can you beef the undercarriage up a bit?"
Yeah.
Because then they put the 4 wheels on the back.
It must have been tricky to land them because you're sat so high up, and I can't imagine there would have been many radio aids. Probably no ILS systems or auto land.
Well, probably no, not then. No.
Yeah.
You know, we get people that sit in the Vulcan, you know, like, pilots that fly microlights.
Yeah.
And they say, well, we do circuits at this height. You
Yeah,
know, they
yeah.
think, you know, how do you fly at this height?
Funny landing attitude. Let's go and check out
Yeah.
check out what we got over here. So I'm guessing, are they the flaps?
Yeah, yes. There's the flaps and then the ailerons behind them. That's the rudders there.
These are the rudders.
Yeah, and the elevators behind you here. You know, people look at these and they go, are these not the wings? I say, no. You know,
I mean, so the elevators are bigger than the wings of most of the airplanes that I've flown.
Yeah, yeah.
Just look at the size of this. So I wonder if it was so was it fly-by-wire or was it all?
It was all
rods and pulleys.
Rods and pulleys. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, you must have had to be
And-
quite a beefy chap to fly it.
And up in the what gets me up in the cockpit, there's a part in the centre console there that comes up and it's like a boat tiller.
Yeah,
And that was the steering.
yeah.
It's
That's yeah.
it was a-
It's crazy.
yeah.
A child could walk underneath it without it.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it'd be handy for cutting grass under it, but we haven't got any grass under it.
So that's this one of the ailerons. Did you say
no, they're rudders.
rudders? Ah, even that. Look at the thick. Must be a foot thick.
Yeah. The brackets on those are broken, so we're going to have to replace all those before we put them all back together.
It's going to be a tricky.
But then
one
again, they're not going to
stick back
move, so do we put them on, plate them up so they don't move? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
on. I just can't get over
and
the size of it.
The vertical stabilizers over the other side of the ailerons there.
Got you. So these, I'm guessing,
Oh, go away.
these connecting rods here,
Yeah.
they're for those there, are they? What on earth is that? Is that from the landing gear?
It is, yeah. It's a bogie.
Beg your pardon?
A bogie that holds.
Sorry,
Not the one that comes down the nose, but this is a bogie that holds 4 wheels, as it were. And when it came, it had all this corrosion on it.
Mm.
And we thought, well, you know, we want to try and replace that. Where we're going to get another bogie from?
Yeah.
Anyway, me and Bob down at the fort, because it had all these billets. We would ratchet these billets and find all sorts in the night time that we could use. We found an old new one.
So that's the other one. That's the new one.
Yeah, so somebody
Awesome.
in the past had thought, well, we're going to have to change it one day. Let's keep one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we thought, right, we've got to take this one off. And it's had a big pin through the middle of here.
Mm.
And we tried all sorts of dry ice and everything to get it out. We couldn't get it out. We tried battering and everything. So the lad says, well, I'll have a go with a grinder. Anyway, he only came 2 days a week here, but it took him a month to get it.
A month.
To get it off.
Flipping heck.
And then people have been asking us, what you're going to do with this? You're going to melt it down? Are you going to turn it into ingots? So you're going to make, you know, like badges or key rings with it or whatever else? I don't know. You know, I would have liked to kept it in one bit and put 4 tyres on it because we've got plenty of spare wheels. You know, we could have displayed that somewhere, eh? But I don't know. Anyway,
that
so that was one of the jobs that we had to do. We had to do that before we could put this
It's
wheel
looking good, yeah. I was looking at how thick the wings were over there, but what I hadn't realised is that the wing where me and Dougie were stood next to before was the end part of the wing. Now come and have a look at this. This is ridiculous. So I thought that was the wing root. It's not. It's the end of the wing. This is the wing root. And Dougie, I think, did you say that there's walkways in there so people can go walking through it?
There is. You would have to be small, but you can get through them, yeah.
I mean, this, come and look at this, Reece. This is ridiculous.
This is the aft part of the aircraft.
This
bit
is,
here.
this is where the wing.
This is where the paratroopers would be at this end,
Right.
even though it's upside down. And then this end is where the cockpit is. So there is no actual way from the cockpit to the aft, you know, part of it.
Yeah.
The way they had to do was they had to come out of the cockpit, go down into the bottom bit, come along, and then come back up into.
Is that because it would have literally met in the middle of the?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know, the engineers could come from the cockpit,
Yeah.
because the cockpit of this bit, and they could actually go down inside the wing.
Through here.
Yeah. No, they would have to employ the small guys.
Yeah.
But you know, it is feasible to get down there.
So if my mate PJ is watching this video,
Yeah.
PJ, you would have had a use. Yeah, I just can't get over the sheer size of it.
Anyway,
It's mind-boggling.
this part here is where the paratroopers would go when they were carrying like cargo underneath.
Yeah.
And they were carrying 36 paratroopers up here. We've had a guy, one of our members, he's been doing all the seats up and he's put them all back in. The seats are here, down behind where the black tarpaulin is there. There's a big hatch in the floor, that's where they would jump out.
Is it okay if we have a look
course,
inside?
yeah,
Is that all right? Yeah.
I can't get up there, but you can.
Look at that ditch and exit. You wouldn't want to
Yeah.
come out of there.
Now, that's the way that we're going to get people up into it, public. We're going to come through this way, out of the fuselage down below. So they'll be able to get up here safely.
Which way would this have faced? That's
front and that's
right.
Now, behind
rear.
as I say, behind that tarpaulin, that's where the hatch is where you jump out.
Got ya.
Now, behind that hatch, there's a toilet.
Ah.
Now, seemingly when this aircraft was at St Athan, there was an engineer on the toilet. Somebody came and opened the hatch. He came out the toilet and fell out and killed himself.
Oh.
Yeah, which is, on this aircraft. So this is another selling point. We can sell this to ghost tours, which brings money in so we can do aircraft up.
Yeah.
And a part of the lottery, you've got to bring different types of people to the museum. We can't just bring aviation people. We want, people that knit and things like that.
Yeah.
Well,
people that knit.
well, we've got ghost tours that come. We've got people that bring dogs and they do like training. They hide in here. The dogs have got to find them. It'd be good for if the police would, use this for, sniffer dogs. And that's what it's like. Yeah.
But what's crazy though is, I'm stood up. I'm not particularly tall, but I'm not hitting my head.
Yeah.
This is on top of the fuselage that's over there. I just can't get. Again, it's another reminder how huge it is.
Well, to the top of the tail, it was 33 foot.
Blooming heck.
I don't know how many meters that is because I'm old school.
So just to put it in perspective, if I just borrow the camera off you. So we've just been walking inside there, and if I pan the camera over here, it goes on top of this, on top of that. It's huge.
So keep hold of it. Don't throw it away. Nestles over there that go between the wing and the actual engine.
Oh, this bit?
Yeah. Now, originally when we took the wings off, they were on, and the transport guy says, "Oh, it's okay, we'll manage them." But they stuck out here, and when we put it on his trailer, it stuck out 2 meters more than what it should have done.
Ooh.
So we had to, it was a weekend, we took these off.
Yeah.
And we phoned him back on the Monday and said, send the wagon back. "Oh, you done it okay already?" I said, "Yeah, got to get on with it, eh?" So when we build it, we're going to put the engines back onto them first, build it on the ground, and then we're going to offer them up at a height back into these 4 bolts that on here.
How dealing with stuff that's so big, was it dangerous, any of the work that you were doing?
No,
because
we did it safely. We all had harnesses. If we went up onto the wing, we had on top of the wing. There's like bolts that stick out with look like big wing nuts, and we put a rope between all those, and we all had harnesses, and we were walking up and down with the harness on there.
Yeah.
So while we were up there, we were always harnessed on there.
Because you're 33 feet high.
Well, no, that's about 20 foot high. It's high enough.
Still do a bit of damage, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So engine nestles, ramps, 22 spare wheels, and that's the horizontal stabilizer on the back.
Got you. Even that's huge, isn't it?
Even getting the elevators off there, that took a heck of a long time. And the elevators were like connected together, but they're on like dihedral like that, eh?
Yeah.
And when they go up and down here, there was all this mechanism in the middle that had to move around, eh?
Yeah.
So we had to disassemble all that to start with before we could take the...
If I were you, I'd be scared trying to remember how to put it back together. Whole thing. I can't wait to see it ready. How long do you reckon it'll be before it's there?
Well, we reckon it'll take 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah. Even the land that it's sitting on here, we had to get this prepared, eh?
Yeah.
And it was grassland, but it was very wet. So we had to dig down a metre to get to clay.
Yeah.
And that involved 800 tonne of soil coming out of it.
Where'd you put it?
Well, the company across the way, the good neighbours there, they said, "Well, we can take it away and we'll sell it for you." Eh? So, but we said, "Well, can you do us a good price on the stuff that we've got to put back in?" So 800 tonne of rubble went back in here.
Heck. This is, I can't wait. So I'm looking for 2 years' time. We'll come back and we'll do a finish video. Yeah.
So this was a job in itself. Eh? Getting this done. And then getting somebody to put the plinths in as well where it sits. All that had to be levelled out and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, one of our members is a builder, and he came and he put it on.
Oh, perfect.
And he's made them all level. Eh?
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we could make it all cement, eh? But how much is that going to cost?
Yeah.
The bit at the back here, it's the thing at the back. We've got the elephant's ears that are on the back that catch the straps, but the thing that goes between the body of the aircraft and the ground is called an elephant's foot. And it's like a big, like stand kind of thing.
Like elephants back then? Or?
Well, they must have done, yeah. Well, it's that big, eh? What's the biggest aircraft, biggest animal in the...
So we've had a really good look around the Blackburn Beverley here. I guess what's the next stage, and what can people do that are watching this to get involved and to support you?
Well, to support us, you could go on our webpage or whatever and donate money. That's all a big help. You know, that'll buy things that we need to do, you know, paint and things like that, because all that needs bought. So we'll still have a wee bit of money left in the kitty, but, you know, having that little bit extra gives us a little cushion, knowing that we can get on with the job. You know, there's a pipe sticking out of the ground over there. That's got to have a box on it with electrical, you know, components in, so we can supply electricity to the aircraft when it's live, put lights inside, So there's little things like that still need bought. But, you know, if they want to volunteer, come along. They can help us. They don't have to be here 7 days a week. You know, if you can only give half a day, great.
What can a volunteer expect when they get here? What kind of stuff would they be doing?
Well, we just had one volunteer joined last week. He's come all the way from Newcastle. We have a lot of people that come from different places in the country and come and volunteer. But he's a painter and decorator over there, and he says, "What can I do?" I said, "Well, we need a bit of painting done on the Vulcan." So that's like taking coals to Newcastle, really, isn't it? So he's come across here to carry on his work that he does over there. But he's doing it on an aeroplane, which he likes to do.
Yeah.
So,
I love it.
Yeah. You know, even if you just want to cut grass, you know.
So on the Beverley, how long do you reckon you guys are going to have until it's going to be all put back together and ready to show everybody?
Well, we reckon 2 years that it'll be ready to, you know, for the first visitors to go aboard. You know, one of the things we thought of, should we have a party, invite every Beverley we know?
Beverley?
Yeah, everybody that's called Beverley.
What about everybody from Blackburn?
well, there's a lot of people that would come up from Blackburn. You know, invitations will be going out to people that have helped us. You know, whether they can come or not.
The Blackburn Beverley was more than just an aircraft. It was a symbol of British engineering, military history, and the spirit of global service. Now, thanks to the dedication of the team at Solway Aviation Museum, the very last of its kind is being brought back to life piece by piece. You can be a part of this historic journey. Visit the Solway Aviation Museum website to learn more, make a donation, or plan your visit to see the Beverley in person. If this story inspired you, please share this video, spread the word, and help us keep the memory of the Blackburn Beverley flying high. Together, we can ensure that this iconic aircraft is never forgotten. Finally, another massive well done to Solway Aviation Museum for what they've done so far, and we can't wait to visit once it's complete.